Okay guys, so we're going to have a go at looking at the hand pictures, and just wanted to give you a few tips. First of all, framing your hand. You want your hand against a plain background, not a coloured background, not a textured background or a pattern, just a plain light coloured background. In this case, a wall. You could do it on the desk, on a piece of paper. I've done mine up against the wall. Second thing is, don't get too close, don't get too far away. So you want your hand to not completely fill the frame, but you kind of want it to kind of fill the center of the frame. Also, positioning. You don't want it off to the left or off to the right, too much towards the top, cuts bits off, your fingers off, or too low down. You kind of want it nice smack bang in the center of the frame, so you can see how much space I'm giving my hand around the edges. Then you've got to think about the kind of hand you want. So you either put your hand flat, you might want a kind of a claw shape, you might want it pointing outwards, which is quite a nice image. I'm going to take a photograph of that. You could do a fist again, which is quite a nice image. Again, think about the positioning. I'm putting my fist slightly towards the top of the page, top of the frame, not in the center this time, so I get more of my arm. I don't want to get items of clothing in, I just want the arm, so I'm just going to roll down my sleeve so I don't get interfere. So take your fist in different positions. Holding it like that kind of naturally has this kind of diagonal line, so I'm going to position it close to the top left hand corner but not quite touching. You could try just arching your fingers maybe as though you're kind of scratching down the wall. So there's lots of different positions you could take. So let's have a check at what I've got. Just look back at my photos, make sure I'm happy with them. There we go. You can see that each time I'm centering my hand in the center, that the fist is slightly towards the top of the frame there. Obviously I've got my diagonal line going on there from corner to corner with that side view of the fist, and then the last view there. So there's nothing interfering with any of the photos. They're all positioned nice and centrally. There's nothing around the edges. They're nice. I'm holding the camera nice and still when I take it. You could ask someone else to take it for you, but you're best off taking it yourself. Hold the camera nice and still. Don't zoom in too close, not too far away. Get that hand position nice and centrally. Take your time and take that photo. Okay, once you've got a few photos, probably around 10 different hand shapes, different compositions, then we're going to have a go at editing them. So on my iPhone, I just need to go to edit in the top right hand corner. On Android phone, I'm sure there'll be something similar. So first of all, I'm going to duplicate the photo. Bottom left hand corner, the box with the arrow pointing up, which allows us to duplicate it. Again, I think on an Android phone this will be slightly different, but there should be something similar. So I'm going to duplicate the photo first, and that means I've got two copies, so I would keep the original. So then I'm going to go into the edit mode, top right hand corner. Again, on an Android phone there'll be something similar. Now first of all, what I'm going to do is use the filters, which is just at the bottom of my screen, and I'm just going to choose the filter that I want. You can experiment with different filters. Obviously black and white, we've got a different kind of colour, we've got dramatic, vivid, cool. They'll do something slightly different to the image. Change the colours slightly, make them more vivid, or make them more not as vivid, quite faint. But I'm going to go for noir. So I'm going to go for silver tone. Actually, I quite like silver tone. The second thing I'm going to do is click on the adjustments at the bottom. You can see there I can adjust the image. I've got the magic wand, which kind of automatically adjusts it. I'm not interested in that. First thing I'm going to do is change the exposure. So the exposure, you can see, obviously changes the amount of light of the image. Obviously makes it quite dark or quite light. I quite like that effect with this, particularly with this shadow. I'm going to make it quite dark. Okay, so try and make quite big quite big changes if you can. We want to make this kind of quite dramatic. We're not going to change it, a small amount. We're going to change it quite a large amount, but not too much. That's probably a bit too much, too dark. I think around there, that's quite nice. Next thing I'm going to go to is brilliance. Okay, you can see what that does to the image. Again, it kind of has an effect on the lightness and the darkness of the image. I actually quite like the brilliance right up at 100 there. I like that, what that does to the image. It's still got the shadow in there. Yeah, I like that. Next thing I'm going to do the highlights. This changes the kind of the brighter parts of the image. Doesn't really do a lot, but I'm going to make it quite a lot brighter. 58, I'm going to do that. We've got shadows. This obviously just changes the shadow. We can see that obviously when we take it right up to 100, the dark areas of the image become very light. It's almost like a negative image, and when I take it all the way back down to minus 100, we get quite a lot of shadow. I like that. I like that quality in the image. So I'm going to take it right down to minus 100. Then we've got contrast. Again, we're playing with the lightness and the darkness of the image. I don't want to lose too much of the detail, because you can see when I take it right up, there's a lot of black in there. When I take it right down the other way, it becomes very faint and very light. So I'm going to take it almost up to the top, but not quite. About 22, 34. See, I'm going through all of the settings, not just one or two. Again, brightness kind of changes the brightness in the of the whole image, shadows and highlights. I quite like it's just underneath there. We've got black point. Again, we're just messing around with the black, the amount of black in the image. I quite like that. Saturation doesn't really do a lot, because that actually is a setting that changes the colour. Same with the vibrance, doesn't really do much either, because it's a black and white image. Warmth, again, doesn't really do much. Tint doesn't really do a lot. Sharpness, we can take some of the what we call noise in and out of the image. You can't quite see that, but it will make it either grainy or not very grainy. So I'm going to leave that as it is, really. Definition, again, doesn't really do much. Noise reduction, again, doesn't really do much. And then we've got the last one, which is vignette, which puts a kind of a dark shadow around the edges of the photo. You can see that if I take it right up to 100, I've got dark corners. Take it right down, they are kind of white. So I'm going to make it a little bit moodier by changing the edges there. And that's my final image. We can see that we've changed the image quite a lot, quite dramatically. And that's the kind of effect that I want you to have. I don't want you to just tweak the images a little bit. I want you to really dramatically change them. So I'm going to press click on or touch on done. It's saving my photo. If I go back into my camera roll, we can see the difference between the two images now. That's the original image. This is the image we've created. Quite kind of horror kind of effect, quite dark, a bit menacing. So I've changed the image quite a lot. Okay, I haven't just tweaked it little bits. It's changed quite dramatically from the original image. So let's have a go at another one. Let's do the fist. So I'm going to go to duplicate, make a copy of it, check that I've got two, I have, and let's edit this one. So I'm going to stick with the colour this time. I'm going to change I'm going to put a filter on it first of all. I'm going to go for dramatic warm. Then I'm going to adjustments. First of all, the exposure. Again, the exposure changes the lightness and the darkness of the entire image. I'm quite happy with that. Brilliance. Again, if you take the brilliance right up or down, you can see the difference that it makes. I quite like the effect of the shadow, so I'm going to take the brilliance down quite a lot, -80. Highlights. You can see that sometimes we get these kind of weird effects. You see on the shadow there, you can see that it's kind of created this kind of halo around the shadow. Take it right down, right up, play with it a bit. I quite like that halo on the shadow, so I'm going to keep that. Shadows, darkness and lightness of the shadow. I'm going to take it up to 50. Contrast. Okay, the contrast obviously does quite a lot to the darkness of the image. I'm going to go with the quite dark image. Brightness again. You can see that kind of highlight on the halo and the shadow coming in and out. That's too dark and too light, so I'm going to stick with somewhere in the middle. Black point. I'm going to take a little bit of the black out of the shadows, the black point. Saturation. Now this is where we can obviously, if we take all of the saturation out, we get a black and white image. We take it right the way up, we get quite a bright image. I'm going to take it right the way up. Vibrance. Again, I'm going to take that right the way up. Warmth. Now you can see that now we get this kind of effect where we're really playing around with the colour now. I quite like that. The kind of bright pink in the nails and the shadows kind of turn to a blue. I really like that effect. Tint. Again, we can tint it as a particular colour. We can put more red into it and more green into it. Quite like the green. Sharpness doesn't really do a lot. I'm going to make it a little bit sharper. Definition doesn't really do much either. So some of these settings will kind of cancel each other out. Noise reduction, nothing, I'm going to leave that. And the last we've got vignette. I'm going to leave, actually I'm going to make the vignette white. So I'm going to pull it all the way down to -100. You can see we kind of get this glow in the corners. Okay, I'm happy with that. As I'm done, it will save the photo to my camera roll. And again, let's have a look at the difference. So that's our original photograph, and that's what we've ended up with. Okay, real big difference, and quite a weird effect on that shadow, which I quite like the look of. Let's do one more. Let's do the kind of the claw hand. Again, I'm going to duplicate it there. So I've got two, should have two, there we go. Go to edit, and then I'm going to go start with my filter. Go for a cool filter this time. Go to my adjustments, right, so to start with the exposure. Now I'm going to do a light image this time. So I'm going to put a lot of light in it instead of making it darker. Brilliance as well. I'm going to take the brilliance right up. Highlights. Now that does something weird look. Ooh, that looks quite strange. Again, I like the effect it's having on the shadow. And it's almost like a painted kind of effect. I like that. And the shadows, I'm going to take the shadows right out. There we go. And contrast. Oh, if I put the contrast right down, look, you can see -100. Again, it looks like it's kind of like almost like a chalk kind of drawing. So I'm going to take the contrast right down. So you can see again, I'm playing with the extremes of these settings rather than just manipulating them slightly. I really like that. So I'm going to take the brightness right down. Get the background, it's kind of this blue. I've got those pinks in there. The black point. I'm going to take the black point right down. You see, when I take it right up, I get more black in the image, more red. I want to take it right down so there isn't any. Saturation. Again, I'm going to take this saturation down actually slightly. So again, I'll get this kind of light, kind of pastel-y kind of effect. I like the blue, so I'm going to keep the blue in. So the vibrance is around 57. Warmth, again, changes the image. I like the pink and the blue background, so I'm not going to take it right way down because it gets rid of that pink. I'm going to take it slightly up there, -47, 39, there we go. So I'm really, and again, here's the tint. I'm not going to use any tint because I'm quite happy with the colours that I've got. And the sharpness isn't really doing anything, so I'm not going to play with that. Definition, now the definition look, it kind of makes the detail in my hand, the texture of my hand, really kind of stand out. So I'm going to put some more definition in there. Noise reduction I'm going to leave. and vignette. I don't think, I quite like the white vignettes, so I'm going to use the vignette at -100 to get the white kind of corners in. I'm happy with that. I'm going to save that. So you can see from the images that I've got now, I've really pushed the limits of the adjustments. I'm not just making slight tweaks, I'm actually really pushing my images to the kind of limits. I've come out with some quite dramatic images that I can use as backgrounds or use as images. I'm thinking about using these as using these as posters. So we're going to create posters with these. So there you go. So don't just settle for an image that is slightly adjusted. Try and really push the adjustments on these photographs and really create some images that really pop out and really stand out and that are really different. And I want you to create around 10 of these images. So I want 10 of these images in your camera roll ready to upload to your OneDrive account. Okay, good luck.